Okay.
I think it's good. Cool. Okay. So hello everyone. Happy New Year to everyone. And yeah, as Christian said, to start this year, I thought we could go with let's say a pedagogic presentation based on a case I faced recently just before the holidays. So typically it's let's say so it's a bug fix, and as Christian said, it can be interesting, I guess, for people who are not used to this mechanism to have a concrete example of it, and for people who are very used to this mechanism to tell me what have I done wrong or what could have done better. And it's all the more interesting that I'm in between someone who is strictly using so far and someone who is developing so far. So I figured it could be of interest for some people. So very concretely, in my case, as I was saying, I was in between user and developer. It means that I'm using the master version of SOFA, which I update not that often, typically on a monthly or weekly basis. Weekly more seldom, but mostly monthly. So from time to time, I update my master version, and sometimes something happens which I hadn't anticipated. And in this case, I did an update on the end of November, like the 25th of November, something like this. And it changed behavior, which I was very much using in scenes that I'm working on. So in this case, it's related to Beam navigation. So here I'm going to show an example with the Beam adapter plugin. But I'm doing the same kind of things as with Coursera at the moment. And for those of you who are familiar with this, basically in navigation scenes in Beam adapter, you're often pushing some instruments inside an anatomical structure, let's say. And for this, when I was using the graphic interface to push the instrument, I had the ability. So to push the instrument, the typical control, the input key was control and forward key to make it advance forward, and control and down arrow key to make it go backwards. And what was very interesting is that you could keep pressure on one of the arrows so that it automatically keep progressing. So typically, if I kept the up arrow down, something like this was happening, and the beam was progressing automatically. I didn't have to push each time on the key to make it progress forward. And after the update I did, this behavior was changed, because now you don't have to use control anymore to apply an input. Like to use a key of the keyboard to give some input to the simulation. And typically here, to make it progress, I have to press each time the up key. I can't let it press to make it progress forward. So here it's not that of an inconvenience, because the beam is progressing quite fastly in the anatomy. But when you wanted to do a long trip inside the anatomy, it's painful to have to push regularly the up arrow key. So this is a context, and it's a weird bug because it's very specific to this application, and it's difficult to figure out where does it come from. So the first thing I did was to speak about this during a SOFA Dev meeting on the Wednesday, to see if someone else had the problem, because it could be something I changed in the meantime on my computer. And it was confirmed by someone else that this behavior was indeed introduced in the SOFA master. So once this was confirmed, I opened an issue on the GitHub of SOFA. So when you go to the GitHub of SOFA, you have a section here with issues. So these are ongoing issues. You can see that they are more closed than open, but there are a lot of issues open. And you can simply create a new issue, specifying the problem you encountered, giving a minimal example that other people can reproduce, and giving some context describing the bug. So I did that. So as you see, I called that, I labeled it graphic user interface, because apparently linked to how you handle inputs via the GUI. And I said, I called it change of behavior in iterative controls. And here I described what I was explaining to you. And so you can see that someone from the Defrost team answered very, very quickly to my message. So that was cool, saying that how we could track this kind of bug by using something that is called git bisect with a very detailed manual to do that. And basically it allows you to encounter the commits which introduced the error. Because the problem being that as I was saying, I update my master version not that often. I had a lot of commits between the last version that was working for me and the new version that I just updated, which was dysfunctional. So you can use this to find where does it come from. And so someone else from the community did that because they had the same problem. And so they said that using git bisect, they found that apparently the modified behavior came from this pull request here. And he said that he checked that because he tried to go to the commit before and this commit and the behavior disappeared, going back to the previous version. So that was a good point. And then so I went to see what the pull request was. And you can see here that so it's labeled replace all vector2, vector3, vector4 where the short name aliases, vec2, vec3, meaning that technically this should not impact graphic user interface. So we have to investigate a bit. You can see also that as it is something like very generic in terms of code updating, there are a lot of files that was changed during this PR. Meaning that it's a bit tedious to go through. But indeed, you can see that all the changes are basically replacing this type of name by the short name, as it was described in the description. So there are a lot of files which were modified, but most of the modifications were very simple ones and very easy to go through, basically cleaning and updating the code. So I went through all the files, and what I did was to search what was the modification which weren't this type of modification, simply replacing one name by the other. And so I put the result here, and you can see that going through these files, I found 2 files. So I'm going to go there. So file viewer. And the one below, Sofa QTGL viewer. And you can see here that among the modifications, there is this. So these lines, which were basically replaced by these lines. And you can see here that there is a condition that was previously is control pressed, and then you propagate some events. So in this case, an iteration through the keyboard. This condition was changed by not is control pressed and a variable with the method is auto repeat. So I was, the names are quite explicit, and I was thinking that this corresponds basically to the change of behavior that I was facing. And so I set this on the issue, and the author of this issue, another very famous and active member of the Defrost team, confirmed that indeed these changes was meant to fix a different issue, and they were pushed by mistake in this cleaning pull request. So in the end, we had the solution of the problem, which was to simply replace these 2 lines of code in the new version to reverse only this part of the commit which was problematic, and this modification then can be addressed in a different commit to fix the other problem that they were meant to solve at the beginning. And so the last step here is to do the modification and to do a pull request just to revert these changes. So I haven't got this at the moment, but I can show you very briefly how I would do that. So first I would, so here I won't go into the detail because then the presentation would be a bit longer, but here is the, so this is the repository which I'm using as a fork of Sofa. So if you're not familiar with the notion of fork, basically when you go on Sofa GitHub, I showed you before, this is not that, let's go there, up, here. So this is the GitHub of the main Sofa repository. And you can see that you have the option fork here. And what this does is that it will create a repository on your personal GitHub. So in this case, here is mine, which is a clone basically of the Sofa repository. So that I can do every modification I want in this cloned repository. And this won't affect the main repository of Sofa. It will only affect my version of the repository of Sofa, which is used here only by me. So it won't affect other users. So this, my fork, is what's here. And on this fork, I can create, so I'm on the master version of Sofa. And I can create a branch. Let's say, for instance, PR. So to do my pull requests, and I'm going to call revert PR, and the name of the PR was 32.99. So here. Now I'm in a new branch, which appears here. So now the modification I'm doing will be on this branch. And now I'm going to modify the file that I spotted. So the first one is Sofa viewer. Yes, here. And I'm going to change this condition that I was showing to you here, revert it to what it was before the commit we saw. So this is the first one, and the second one is Qt. No, what's the second file? Oops, here. The second file is Qt viewer. Here, and the condition is here. Perfect. So now, if I go back to my repository, I can see. So here I'm using shortcuts for Git, but once again, I won't detail this because the presentation would be a bit too long. But here you can see that the two files have been modified. And if I want to see what are the differences, I can use this command. And I can see that the only modification that was made was the one I showed before. So I'm going to add these two files I modified to do a new commit on the new branch I created. And then I'm going to commit it. So let's say, I'll just say revert unwanted behavior following PR. This one, I think. And once I've done that, so before pushing my commit on my repository, a good practice is to recompile Sofa and to see if indeed the modification I made solved the issue I had. This should be fast as I don't know. Should it be fast? Okay. So these, don't pay attention to this. It's an issue that I don't know where does it come from, but it's temporary anyway. So here I compiled successfully, and now I can try to launch my scene once again. And normally, so you have to trust me because you can't see me pushing on the buttons, but this time, oh yeah, I have to control now. Yeah, this time it works. So here you can see the beam moving much more fastly. Okay, well, it crashed, but it's not because of the modification, probably because of some collision issue as I was going too fast. But you could see that the beam was progressing much faster than before, because now I can keep the arrow down to make the beam move automatically forward. So it's cool, it's working. And once I've checked that, I can, so I'm on the new branch I created, and I can push this branch on my fork, so on my GitHub repository. So I called the branch PR revert. So this, here. So what this does is that it creates on my GitHub branch, which contains only the new modification I made. And you can see that when I go on my GitHub account, it detects that this branch that I just created has recent pushes, and you can compare this branch and pull requests. That means that I'm going to ask the developer of SOFA to integrate this code on the SOFA master. And if after the process reviews is fulfilled, what was at the moment only on my personal GitHub will be on the GitHub of SOFA once validated by the community. So yeah, I think I won't go all the way through because I'll take a bit of time to describe what I did here. But basically, you have the full process from what happens when I encounter a bug, the opening of the issue, the help of the community to find the default commit and to pinpoint the issue that was causing problem, and then how you, as a user, you can propose this solution to this issue to the community.
Thank you very much, Camille. Thank you very much. Congratulations. and just a one question, Camille. Is it automatically solved? So you have to close the issue, or?
No, if the PR is merged. A good question. Maybe Hugo can answer that. I would say that the issue is closed automatically, but
Okay.
I know we still don't hear you, but maybe Alex or Damien can confirm that as well.
Yeah, you have to mention it in the PR description.
Okay, that it corresponds to that it solved the.
Yeah, you write fixes dash. You know. Yeah, okay. This one.
Okay. Okay, so that's cool. Thank you very much, Camille. I hope now that you saw, of course, it's maybe difficult to do all the process, and maybe the end was a little bit more technical, but the beginning was really simple, I think, and you can like just pinging when there is an issue, just going to the interface and write your issue is already something. So. Don't hesitate.
Can we ask questions?
Yeah.
Camille, can you explain maybe how we make sure that a change of behavior does not happen again in the future?
I can try to answer that. For me, that's the point of the continuous integration process that's going on so far. Well, there are two things. There are first, when someone like me is doing a pull request like this, it's submitted to the SOFA GitHub repository. And you can see here there is a list of pull requests on SOFA, 53 open, 2,500 closed. And every Wednesday, so on a weekly basis, the core developers of SOFA, including Damien and Alex, for instance, and Hugo, gather to review these pull requests. So together, they take the pull requests one by one, and they review basically the code modifications, the potential consequences that these modifications have, and if there are modifications to be made on the pull requests. And you can see that here the different pull requests have different status. So you have some pull requests that have the status to review, meaning that they need some input, either because they are ready to be merged to SOFA in the eyes of the contributor, or because they want to discuss them during the weekly meeting. And you have some pull requests which have a work in progress status, meaning that these pull requests are not entirely finalized and they need some modification before they are integrating into SOFA. So that's the first level of the safeguard, let's say, meaning that if you propose some modification, they will be reviewed by people who have a general knowledge of the mechanism of SOFA. And as I was saying, the second mechanism is that when you're doing a pull request, you have automatically a continuous integration which is launched on the code of your pull request with regression tests and scene tests, meaning that this is too much detail for me, but but basically there are unit tests which will be launched on the modified version that you are suggesting to SOFA, which will check that the modification you propose won't cause major issues regarding the global behavior of SOFA. I don't know if you have something to add to that, Alex.
Yes, so we have unit tests that run after your PR. So it means that we after Damien PR that changed the behavior, we did not detect automatically with the unit test that there is a change of behavior. So it means that there are no unit tests testing that behavior. So that would be great if you add a unit test as well in the PR, so that next time we detect this change of behavior. Of course, we are in a UI code, so I will not ask you to do that because it's too complex. But for another part of the code, it would be great to add a unit test as well. When you fix something, it is usually a good practice to add a unit test.
A short remark, maybe, if I may. Thanks, Camille, a lot for the presentation. And I wrote that in the chat, so I'm not sure if anyone already said that or not. I had to reconnect. But yeah, the fact also to just join, the SOFA Dev meeting, where basically all engineers are gathering every Wednesday online. It's open to really anyone, so everybody can join. There is actually all the info which is given directly online. Either I can share, or you can go maybe on the GitHub of SOFA, Camille, and if you click on the wiki, there will be all the information about this SOFA Dev meeting. If you go up here, wiki, close to here, wiki, and then you click on reports. and there you're gonna have all the information, especially at the first line. Join us every Wednesday 9 a.m. CET. So you have the link and so on. You have an issue, just join there. It can be like even just for 5 minutes before we start the meeting. We will like take your questions and so on. But this meeting is also yours, like not only reserved to the engineers or whatever. So do not hesitate to join, as you said, Camille.
Yeah, typically, even if here I'm using the master version of SOFA, but even if I was just using, well, I mean, this kind of bug is more likely to happen on the master version. But even if I don't know how to modify the code, etc., I could have, in the example I showed, I could have seen that the behavior of my scene has changed, open the issue that I opened, saying that I see this behavior has changed, and I don't know if it's normal, and then join to the dev meeting to confirm that this is actually an issue. And you don't need to enter the code to do that.
And as you might have noticed, in this wiki that you just showed, Camille, there is also the report of like everything that is going on or went on in the last meeting. So do not hesitate to just grab Control F any keywords about that. Maybe it will help also to detect what has changed without going through the whole change log of SOFA. So thanks again, Camille.
Yeah, and thank you, Hugo, for showing this also. Okay, so that's a good point for everyone. So don't hesitate again. The message was also for all the participants in. So SOFA is in an open initiative, so it's important that you participate also to the live of SOFA and like detecting bugs and solving them is part of also of your job as a SOFA as developer in SOFA in general. Just if there is no more question for Camille, thank you again, Camille. I will yeah.